What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR. Sitting across from me this week and every week, thank God you've returned. I need your help. There's a great deal of history that you should know, but I'm afraid that I must continue my writing. Here. It's Desra.
Oh, not this again. And of course, sitting across from me is Brian Paul.
Every week on Why We Love PlayStation VR, we dip into the PSVR archive. We blow the dust off an old favorite, an old game, and we play the crap out of it and let you know if it's been updated by developers, given any love, any DLC, and then we let you know if it's worth your time. That being said, Desiree, what game did we decide to play this week?
This week, we're playing my most anticipated game of 2016. That's Obduction.
Obduction by Cyan Worlds, or Cyan Inc. They seem to go by both, released on August 29th, 2017 for $29.99. And that, of course, was the PlayStation 4 version.
Right.
Before we dive into the long, sordid PlayStation VR history of Obduction, maybe we need to get a little information about the developers out of the way.
Yeah.
It's a small team.
It is a little team.
I don't understand that, because they made Myst.
They did. Rand and Robin Miller.
They sold like 12 bajillion copies. How come they don't have like 1,000 employees like Ubisoft?
Because they don't really need it. And they don't, they really kind of dedicated themselves to, we have a small team with a shared vision, and we're going to keep doing that.
Okay.
And there's some wisdom behind that once you get, too many cooks in the kitchen, so to speak. You can do a lot more. Look at, say, Skyrim with, a team of hundreds of people can crank out this amazingly huge game. But they know what they want. They know the size of the team it takes to get them there, and they can kind of remain focused to the vision they have for the games.
Boy, I can't wait till this review discussion comes full circle, and I get to ask you later on why they don't have more employees for their vision.
Yeah.
Well, so they did make Myst, they made Riven, and those are the two big games they made.
And let's not underestimate how important Myst was. I mean, it came out in 1993 and literally changed the way computer gaming was done and what could be done in computer games. It's something that we can kind of look over now, like with probably like 2 or 3 generations of gamers past that, but how groundbreaking this picture game was. But it really was. It was the first game with like full 3D graphics that in a world you can kind of immerse yourself in. Well, I don't know if it was first, but
it was like it was like pre-rendered graphics.
Yes, it
right?
was.
So
yes,
it looked 3D.
Yes,
but you were just clicking around.
That's correct.
Yeah, which again we'll come back to that. Okay. So a very well-known company and a very well-respected company.
Absolutely.
So here's the thing. The game came out for PlayStation 4, no PSVR support, on August 29, 2017.
Yes, and
we kind of need to go back and take another look at what was happening around that time. The game, I believe...
We both had hair.
That's true. If I have my facts straight, Cyan had announced the game was launching with PlayStation VR support.
That's what they said.
About 2 weeks before that, they said, you know what? We apologize. It's not going to launch with PSVR support, but it's coming. It'll be a free update.
It'll be coming like right away, guys.
Don't worry. Don't worry. We just got a little more work to do on it.
Yep.
But the patch never came until May 8th, which was literally 8 months later.
It was a little loosey in the football for some of us.
Right? And it sort of reminds me of the Wipeout Omega patch, which they promised. They're like, it's coming, but they never gave us a date.
Right.
And the No Man's Sky Beyond, which, luckily they were a little bit better about that one.
Yeah.
And so people, this was a long time ago. This was early on in the PSVR lifespan where we didn't have too many games.
Right.
People were very, very excited to say, hey, I bought this game because I didn't get the notice that they pulled PSVR support. So I bought this game at launch, and now I'm waiting for PSVR support before I play it. So a lot of people spent $30 at launch and didn't play it for 8 months.
Right. And not only that, this was early enough where it sounds funny now, but a game by Cyan was a huge launch. Like, oh, this is a big developer, Not really, but for us at the time, it was huge.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were all very much looking forward to this.
Yes.
In the moment that patch dropped, I downloaded it, huge update.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, let's get in, let's stream right away. Bam, let's do this. And I mean, a few things right off the bat, I guess.
Well, here's the difference. You said, it reminds you of the No Man's Sky update. It reminds you of the Wipeout update. Here's the difference.
Yeah.
Those were worth waiting for.
Well, that's true, I guess.
This is, said very, very often on the show that VR makes everything better.
Mm-hmm.
And there was, so far, I think, one canonical exception to that, and that was
Cat lateral damage.
And I think will be the second one.
Yeah.
One thing that makes this, Obduction, we actually haven't really talked about how you play the game yet.
Right.
It's very much like Myst or Riven, where you're, exploring this world and trying to unlock puzzles and things like that. It's very much about being present and part of the environment.
Right.
And unlike Myst or Riven, where the mechanic is you're going through books and traveling to different ages, which is what they call different kind of parallel worlds, in this game you have all the game worlds sort of layered on top of each other, and use these switches which swap out a spherical shaped section of your world with a spherical shaped section of another world. And in the flat version of this game, it has, I think, one of the most spectacular, let's call it, loading animations I've ever seen in a game, where the world sort of breaks up into individual pixels and falls apart, and then those pixels swirl around and then reform into the pixels of the next world and come together. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous experience, and on the original PS4, you can hear the processors groaning in pain as they're doing it.
It's not an easy task on the Pro either.
No.
It's still disguising the loading screen is what it's doing.
It is.
And even on the Pro, it's like 20 seconds minimum.
Yep. And then so we figure, okay, you know what? We're going to wait 8 months to see how they figured out how to do that in VR. They didn't.
It just blanks.
Yeah, it does.
Yep.
And in fact, that's their solution. One of the things we talk about all the time is the Sony certification process, making sure the games don't drop below 60 frames a second, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And their solution for, instead of like recoding this whole thing or doing a new engine, we're just going to make the game drop to a black screen anytime the frame rate drops.
Yeah, it is.
Well, not totally black. There's also the Obduction logo in the middle.
Yeah. So here's the deal.
Yeah.
Full game, the normal game on PS4,
Mm-hmm.
out of VR.
Yes.
Normal, full locomotion, DualShock 4, smooth turning, all of that. I'm not going to call the graphics beautiful, but I'm going to say they're pretty nice looking.
Right.
Right? You start in on the PSVR version, and it might be the blurriest game I've ever seen on the headset.
It's really bad.
I forgive blurriness. Kona is a great game.
Yeah.
Kona is one of the blurriest games on PSVR. But you know what you can do in Kona? You can run around and get into trucks and drive and do stuff. This game, so you start off and you're like, wow, this is really blurry. And then you pick up your DualShock 4 and go and try to push forward on the analog stick like you did on the PS4 version, and a little teleport arc pops up.
Yeah.
And you go, let me go back to the options and figure out how to turn teleportation off. And you can't.
No.
And then you try to turn click turning off. And you can't. And you're like, please tell me there's a pro patch coming.
And you can't.
And it's just, so all this excitement for 8 months built up. It's going to be worth it, I promise you.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not worth it, I promise you. You're using either DualShock 4 or one or two move controllers. You only need one.
Yep.
Although funny side note, the first one I turned on gives me a left hand.
Oh.
And I was like, well, I'm right-handed. I was like, can I just push a button to swap that? Or I was like, no, I had to turn it on the other one and then just put the first one down.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just.
And here's the thing. I'm going to play slight devil's advocate. Like Myst, Riven, and Obduction, moving around fast is not really the point of this game.
Sure.
Honestly though, it's not about like, oh, I want to get from place to place. But if you're playing it like that, you're kind of missing the point.
Yeah.
Like these games are about exploring every nook and cranny, figuring out, again, experiencing this totally alien world. Yeah, I've been on the record before saying, like, I like my puzzle games when the puzzles are part of the world that exists.
Right.
You're trying to figure out an alien technology, not just arbitrarily. There's a 5-digit combination just smack in the middle of a, I don't know, orange.
Right.
And that's really, and I think it's these games kind of gave me that taste, gave me that sense of like, and that's, at its best, that's what this game is doing. So not being able to dash around from place to place, I'll grant it that, but what I can't accept is the fact that even with the teleportation, even with the click turning, it still cannot handle the frame rate. It cannot handle the graphics.
Like, and there's, and I understand what you're saying. You know, I understand that we are missing the point if we're talking about, well, why doesn't this game have full locomotion?
Yeah. Well, not full locomotion. I'm just like, oh, I want to go here.
Right. But the fact is that there is a lot of, I'm going to call it tracking, because then there's a lot of backtracking.
Yes.
You are just retracing your steps a lot in this game, especially when you don't know what you're doing, because a lot of this game, you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
So you go someplace and you go, well, I don't think there's anything to do here. And you go someplace else, you go, I don't think there's anything to do here. And then you go around and around and around till you start figuring out what you're supposed to do. But man, after that, you've been walking around, but by walking, you've just been hitting the move button over and over and over, and every 10 times you teleport, it goes to a loading screen. It's only 2 seconds, but
that's
again,
on the Pro, dude. On the OG, it's every time or every other time.
That's bad.
Yeah, and this isn't like my memory, because I did a review for this over a year ago now. Right. This is just I did fire it up again, just a couple days ago, just to make sure, hey, maybe they fixed things, and if anything, it seemed slower and worse. And it literally was almost every time I teleported, I was getting the load screen.
Wow. That is horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like, I don't, and that there's just so much to this that just feels clunky. Like it's not even in my book a good teleportation system, because the game knows where you would be able to walk.
Yeah. And
so if you're standing not quite where you need to be to like walk up some stairs or walk up a little ledge, you have to turn, and sometimes the game won't let you turn if you're standing too close to that, so you have to teleport behind you or somewhere else and then teleport back, and or if you can't teleport through items, you can't teleport through, like, there's like a little rock here that you wouldn't be able to walk through, but you should be able to teleport through it.
Yeah.
And the game just doesn't let you do that, so it's taking away the normal movement system and replacing it with something that is just frustrating.
Yeah. Basically, like, it, every game has invisible walls. We accept them as a part of just the limitations of the technology. But yeah, this doesn't really, the way it implements them with the teleportation, it's so counterintuitive, and just, there'll be like a little switchback on a trail, and you'll be here, and in the real world, you just have to like lift up your foot 2 inches and make it. But that's an invisible wall according to the game, so you'll have to teleport, and then make it there. So, in a game like Falcon Age, where you had invisible walls, you had teleportation, but they implemented it, you could point to somewhere you shouldn't be able to get to, it just took you a little bit longer to get there.
Right. The
game was kind of like, all right, we know what you're trying to do, we're going to let you do it, but you're going to pay a little bit of a price because you're still going to take the same amount of time to do it. Yeah. That's a nice compromise of the system. This is just like, nope, you can't do that.
The worst thing about all this is that a couple hours into the game, actually pretty early on in the game, I guess, you go up an elevator.
Okay.
And I'm like, what's the elevator going to do? Is it just going to like teleport me to the next floor?
Oh yeah.
No. You get the smallest vision cone ever with the biggest blinders ever. And then with full locomotion, the elevator goes up to the next floor, and I'm like, so it's possible in this game.
Sure.
And then a few hours into the game, you end up getting into a vehicle of sorts, and it's sort of like a glorified mine cart with a laser attachment.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
It's very cool. It's very cool because suddenly the game starts opening up at this point, and you're like, oh, I can just ride this thing around and like remove barriers from things. And I'm like, this is cool. Like, this is when I started getting into the game. Yeah. And I got into the vehicle, and I was like, how is this going to work? And it's full locomotion, but again, the blinders shrink way down. And I'm 99% sure that the resolution dropped even further.
Oh, I hadn't noticed that, but that could be a OG versus Pro issue. I mean, it's so low on the OG to begin with.
Because when you're shooting the laser, it's actually showing you the laser sight screen. Yeah. And so it's rendering two things suddenly. And I'm like, that's probably the reason for all this.
Okay. And
so you can tell this thing is struggling. But it gives me this little glimpse into what the game could have been, because you're driving around on the rails. And I'm like, it's full locomotion, kind of. Yeah. Why couldn't we get the whole game like this?
Now, I don't want to turn this into completely like everything about this is terrible, because in non-VR,
Yeah.
this is exactly kind of what I want from this developer. You know, the world has got this wonderfully creepy, like, you get, you know, just like with Myst and just like with Riven, you get into this place, you know, people have been there.
Yeah.
You know, things were okay at a time, and at some point, something went terribly wrong. And you have that feeling of like investigating mystery, and you have like, I think are cool little throwbacks to Myst and Riven in the full motion video. You know, you clip in, then when you first start, there's little signposts that basically, and this isn't a spoiler, it's in the title, you've been abducted into this world. And apparently this happens a lot here, so much to the point that they actually have these signs saying, hey, don't worry about it. We know what happened to you. It happened to all of us. Come down the road here and we'll take care of you. And those little signposts they're the flat full motion video of the original games.
Yeah, they're like holographic projections of actual people.
Yeah. And it works nicely. It's a throwback to the, older full motion video, but it makes sense in this world because it's this kind of like hacky sort of technology, and it feels great.
Yeah.
And going on from there, as once you open up that train cart and things like that, it's got that same sense of like, oh, you learn this one thing and suddenly, and yes, it does involve a lot of backtracking, but it's because, oh, now I've learned how to use this piece of technology that's here, and now suddenly all this stuff that was locked before is open to me. Which, if you don't like that kind of gameplay, then, well, I mean, this isn't going to be your game.
Yeah, and this is sort of, I think, where our discussion forks.
Yeah.
Where you take one side and I take the other. Because as much as I thought Myst and Riven were cool back in the day, I feel like the puzzles and the overall gameplay style hasn't evolved enough. Like, Cyan as game developers haven't matured with the technology, and they haven't actually made any progress in terms of like what the kind of games that they're capable of. They're like, oh, hey, now we've thrown this into a 3D engine now, but it still kind of feels all the same. And there was, for me, man, I spent a lot of time in this game going, what's happening here? And that's fine, because you've been abducted and you're on an alien world. That's fine, but there's like so little environmental storytelling that when it happens, I'm like, oh, good, finally something, And I felt like it was just, there were hours that went by where I was just going back and forth and doing puzzles and just saying, this just feels like busy work, and a lot of it to me felt like Zing without the magic of Zing.
Oh, okay.
And so I started falling off. I went on a kind of a roller coaster ride with this.
Yeah.
At first I was like, this is not fun at all. And then by the time I discovered the minecart with the laser, I was like, this is kind of fun. And then like by a couple hours after that, and keep in mind this is like a 20-hour game, I was like, this is just a slog for me. And I'm an adventure game guy. I'm a puzzle game guy, like, but when it, adventure puzzle game, when those things meet. But in the Lucasfilm style, where it's done through a lot of character interaction, and there's not a lot of that here.
Yeah, no, there isn't.
And I just like, I like storytelling when it's maybe a little more forthcoming.
Yeah, so to me, I think, I think this actually game is full of environmental storytelling. In that environmental storytelling, and I'm thinking of, I gush all the time about Walt Disney World, and especially places like Avatar or Animal Kingdom, where the space itself is being used to tell the story.
Okay.
And you pick up on literally environmental cues. Why does that building look the way it is? Why is that pile of books there instead of over here? And that kind of stuff. Yes, there isn't like, you're not picking up a lot of letters and reading letters. Although there is some of that.
Too.
Yeah. And for me, that's why I do like the game, because you do have to you look around and well, wait a second, that chair is over there, which means whoever was sitting there stood up quickly.
Yeah.
And so it's, if you're not looking for that, then it doesn't seem like there's a lot going on. But there's many things you see that kind of lead to more questions, which I kind of like.
There were certain things like you could tell in one little house there was a game of solitaire that hadn't been finished.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But that didn't tell me anything. You know, like a lot of times when I was in the more alien worlds, the ones that like less resembled, you know, what we're familiar with, there was just nothing for me. And I was like, there's just, and I think the problem is that I didn't play this in non-VR. I played the first half hour just to see what I was missing out on, but I didn't play this. It could have been very cool and very epic, and I could have gotten immersed in that world in the non-VR version. But because of the way they implemented the VR aspect, they ripped all of the immersion that was possible out of this game.
And I absolutely agree with that, because I did play the entire game in non-VR, because we basically, back in the day when we were young and naive, we thought, oh, the VR thing's coming out any day now, so Des, go ahead and play the non-VR version so you can finish it, so that way, day and date release of VR, we'll have the review ready.
If the review's not on the channel, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So it exists here. It's right.
It does, and I think that maybe we should. Maybe it's time, now that we know that it's unlikely we're going to see an update for this. Maybe it's time we get that back together and throw a 4 or 5 minute review for this thing together.
Possibly, but that does, I think it tracks exactly with what we're saying, is like, you know, because walking through that muddy, nightmarish experience, you don't want to explore. You don't want to go through every nook and cranny, because you're like, God, it took me long enough just to get to where I want to do to throw this switch. I don't want to take the time to investigate the books in the library, which, by the way, if you do, you'll find the original copy of the Mist book on one of the shelves.
Nice.
Which is kind of cool.
I think we need to rate this.
Yeah, before, just one thing I do want to mention, before it sounds like Des is super cheerleader for this, I will say about, you know, your comment about the puzzles. There is one puzzle specifically in this, and I will never say this in general, because I think, you know, if you're the type of person who likes puzzle games, going to find solutions or other people's walkthrough kind of defeats the purpose. But this, I'm going to solidly recommend, if you decide to play this game. There is one game, it's kind of infamous, it's called The Maze, although in the game they don't call it that. You know, like we said, a big mechanic of the game is swapping chunks of world back and forth. There is a puzzle in this that, even once you've figured out the solution to it, the execution of it, especially because of the load screens and how long swapping between worlds takes, the execution is so tedious and long that just find a walkthrough and do that. Because it is not worth your mental energy to try and keep track of all the switches and sit there and pump through it.
And it's so close to the end of the game that I feel like when you finally finish the maze, you're just like, F this game, F everything, F Obduction, I'm so ready to be done. And then you beat the game and you go, I don't even care. This just like it left such a bad taste in my mouth that I'm like, I don't like, if there was anything redeeming about this game, it took a couple hours to do that properly.
I will say, though, like, I absolutely understand the frustration. I will say, on the positive side, you get to, and like is all the rage lately, you know, a few choices. Let's put it this way. And the game does a very good job of not letting you know which one is the right choice. Right. You know, and it's really basically what you've learned, who you think you can trust, the kind of person you are, and what you think is important. Like, and it sounds like I'm putting a lot of import on it, but it really is that much of a choice. And it's definitely there's no going back. Like, you make one of the choices you have, and that's it. You are making a decision that's going to affect everything. And it is...
So save your game.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's that too. But it is like one of the ones where I really sat there and wrestled with, like, oh, which one do I do? And it's kind of rare for me. I got that invested in the story that's just like, wow, this is a really important choice. Yeah. And it's very rare that a game can still do that to me these days.
Yeah, I checked out the other ending on YouTube. I was like, I don't care. Like, and that was going to be enough for me.
Yeah,
there is
a right answer, by the way.
There is.
All right.
Our rating system is what, Des?
Our rating system is pretty simple to understand. Well, I think. But a 1 is, yes, you need to buy this game. If you have a PSVR, it is just one of the crown jewels in the collection. You need to have it in your library. 2 is, yeah, sure, why not? If it's a genre you particularly like, or if it's on sale at a decent price, go ahead and pick it up. You're not going to regret it. And 3 is no. Friends don't let friends buy crap. We need to vote with our wallets and tell developers that we deserve better. So, a 1, 2, or 3. What do you think?
I've been wrestling with this rating all day long.
Yeah.
Because the thing is everything Des has said in favor of this game throughout the course of the last 25 minutes has been absolutely true.
Yep.
It's a good game, and I think people who are fans of Myst and Riven and the classic point-and-click style puzzle-solving adventures are going to love it. And I think, despite my disdain for the teleportation and the click turning in the load screens and everything and the crazy blinders, that's going to turn 99% people off.
Yeah.
And say, absolutely not. This was poorly done. We shouldn't reward these developers for this kind of treatment. We were told we were getting something, but they should have included the caveat that this was the version of it we were getting.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that there's a big game here, and I think there are definitely people out there who will enjoy it. I just don't think that's a very big percentage of the population. In a game like this, atmosphere is everything, and that's what they stripped out first and foremost by giving it this VR treatment. We didn't even say like that. That the refresh rate is so low that it just trails anytime you do anything. Yeah. It just doesn't look good. It almost looks like screenshots, like slides. We also didn't say that when you reach out and you grab something, most of the time, if you have to like turn a lever or something, it's not tracking 1-to-1. It's just looking for you to make that motion. Yeah. And sometimes I'm like doing this and it's still not doing it.
Yep.
Like, come on, guys. And I think for all of those reasons, if you're this is a PlayStation VR show, so we're not rating the PlayStation 4 version.
Yep.
The PS4 version is a solid 2. It's probably a high 2.
Mm-hmm.
The PSVR version, it's a 3. And I hate giving it that rating because I want more. They're kickstarting. They successfully kickstarted another project, Firmament.
Yep. And
that has PS4 and PSVR support coming. And I just really hope they learned a lot of lessons from this. And I really hope that it's that all of these complaints help fuel Firmament to make it a better VR game. Mm-hmm. And that's just me with my fingers crossed. But unfortunately, this one's a 3.
Yeah. So for me, like, as much as I loved Myst and Riven, there's something about the world of Obduction that just appeals to my sensibility even more. Mm-hmm. Like, I love that it is just hardcore in science fiction. Like Myst and Riven were always science fiction-y, magic-y. We're not quite sure what we are. This is a hardcore sci-fi story, which just I absolutely love. I love this world. I love the story they're telling. I love some of the characters. So I'm actually almost exactly going to say what Brian said, but even more so. I don't think you should play this on the PS4. If you have a really decent, high-powered gaming PC, from what I hear, that version does not have a lot of the issues we're talking about. Because, again, even on the flat version, there are still load screen issues.
And crashes,
yeah. From what I understand, I haven't tried it out myself, but reading reviews and things like that, the PC versions, if you've got a good, beefy video card on it, it works the way you would hope it would work.
Yeah, those scene transitions.
Yeah.
Seconds.
Yeah, and it looks gorgeous. So I'm not even going to be as generous as Brian is. The PC version, if you're a fan of Myst and Riven, it's a 1. It's well done. It's well executed. It's everything you want from one of these games. For the PS4 flat or PSVR, it's a 3. I don't want to reward. Honestly, as much as I love this developer, I do not want to reward them. I want to show them that no, we deserve better than this. Yeah. I don't want anyone's second best.
Yeah. I do feel like this was a case of, at a certain point, they said, we made this promise that we were going to do it, so now we just have to push it out the door, even if this is the best we've got. And I'm sure I can't imagine anyone at Cyan Worlds being proud of this project.
I hope not. I mean, and I don't think they would be. They seem to be people who care about putting out a quality product. Yeah. And I think you're right. They just hit a deadline. We're like, oh, good enough, ship it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we were at the end of the development cycle. So, yeah.
Fingers crossed for Firmament.
Yeah, it sucks. And I hate saying about it because I do like the game. Yeah. I just hate the PlayStation version of it.
Yeah. And I like the game but I like it way less than you do.
Yeah.
so I think it was a little more painful even for me to get through the PSVR version.
Yep.
All right, I hate ending on such a down note, but
we've been really nice to games for the past few weeks.
We've been nice to ourselves and allowing ourselves to play fun games.
Yeah.
I
And this is a game
feel like we deserve.
We've had to talk about, and it's just we've put it off because it really bothers me that this game was as bad as it was.
I was praying against hope that there was going to be a magic patch that would drop to say, "Hey guys, sorry, we fixed it. It's all good now."
Yeah.
I don't think it's happening at this point.
No.
All right, you guys. As always, we want to know what you think of Obduction. Let's try to keep the conversation in the comments PSVR related, because I mean, if we talk about the PS4 version, man, it's going to get real confusing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe if you guys played through the PS4 version while you were waiting for the PSVR patch, maybe you can let us know what you thought of that.
I did. It was cool. Ish.
And of course, we also want to know what other games you want us to play. The list is long. It gets longer every single week. That's all right. Long lists are better than short lists.
Viva Honrath.
You always have to throw something in. I don't understand.
Honrath, that's the name of the town.
For another episode of Why We Love PlayStation VR, I'm Brian Paul.
I'm Dez.
We'll see you next week.